risk and return. So risk is just the probability that actual return from an investment differs from expected return. So now an introduction here. We are simply saying risk is part of doing any business and it cannot be ignored. Different businesses or ventures will be associated with different levels of risk. The risk level inherent in a particular business is also responsible for the amount of return that investors would demand. Okay, so we are now talking about the relationship between risk and return. The expected return on any investment is dependent on the inherent level of risk attached to the particular investment. Okay, so usually investors will demand more return for taking on more risk. So hence, the higher the risk, the higher the return demanded by investors. Only government securities are risk-free securities. These include the treasury bills. Okay, government are known not to default. Okay, the government can't run away, as they will eventually pay their debts or obligations. So investor attitude towards risk. Investors are generally not comfortable with risk. Okay, this behavior is term risk aversion. All right, so risk aversion is a tendency by investors to avoid risk. So if you are a risk-averse investor, you are avoiding the risk. However, there are those investors that are risk takers and willing to take on more risk to make more gain. Behavior towards risk is preferential, and some investors are risk-averse. Okay, so risk is just a probability that the actual return or actual future returns from an investment they differ from those expected. In other words, it is exposure to loss. Okay, this is so because it's very difficult to predict the future accurately because there are so many factors to consider that changes unexpectedly, e.g., recent global recession. Okay, because risk is important for determining the return that investors demand, and most investors are risk averse, avoiding risk. We need to measure it to be able to factor it. The computation of returns appropriate for investors. Measuring risk. As there is a relationship between risk and return, need to measure or quantify risk was required. Okay, so this Professor McCoy has developed a way of measuring risk using statistical mathematical under this principle. Okay. Okay, so investors are rational, meaning that they are profit seeking and would therefore wish to maximize return, but that also risk averse. So every investment has a probability distribution of returns. Factors leading to deviations in returns are states of the economy, the industry, or company. The probability that actual returns deviate from the expected return present risk. In order to measure risk, we need to understand the probability distribution of the risk. The probability distribution is a list of all possible outcomes for an event or outcome with a probability assigned to each. So we can look at this question here. So we have this question here. I'm sure you're able to see it. Okay, Madam Melissa. So it says, what does the question say? You can read for us. You can read for us. What does the question say? Question one.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. Question 1, a probability distribution for different states of an economy with probability and the returns. Have I zoomed in? Sorry. A probability distribution for different states of an economy with probability assigned and the returns under each state of the economy. So you're given three economies, that's the boom, normal, as well as recession, with assigned probabilities, returns of stock, and return of stock on both A and B.
All right. Okay. All right. So, okay. So now you can say define expected return. All right. So expected return is the return you expect from a project. We are now finding. Let's go to B. B says find the expected return and the standard deviation and the coefficient of variation for both stocks A and B. All right, so expected return for A, the standard deviation for A, and of course the coefficient of variation for A. So when you come this side, okay, so we have state of economy. Okay, so we have the state of economy. And then, of course, we have the P, which is the probability. And we have the return of A as well as the return of B. All right, so the state of the economy, we had what? For the state of the economy, we have the booming. Okay, so we have booming here. We have the normal. And then we have the recession. Okay, so this one is 0.3.
Amanzi.
0.4. Okay, then we have the other one is 0.3. So this other one is 0.25, which is 0.5%, 0.25, 0.15, negative 0.10, 0.19, 0.12, and then this is 0.08. Okay, so if you want to find expected return of A, expected return of A, all right, so expected return of A is equal to summation of probability by return. Okay, probability probability multiplied by the return. So meaning that our expected return of A, it will be 0.3 by 0.25. Then multiplying the probability by the return of A. So 0.3 by 0.25, 0.4 by 0.15. So we're adding now. So plus 0.4 by 0.15. Then plus the other one is 0.3 by negative 0.10. So what are we getting now? 0.3 by 0.25 plus the 0.4 by 0.15 plus the 0.3 by negative 0.1. So it is giving us the 0.105. 0.105. So this is our get the expected return of A. Is that clear?
Very clear.
All right. So now let us find the standard deviation of A. SD for A. So SD for A, you just use a table. The first table will be you do the column for P's. So here there's a column for P. Then you say return of A, then minus expected return of A. Okay, then the other one is the return of A minus expected return of A in brackets square. Then probability return of A then minus expected return of A square. So the probabilities are what? 0.3, 0.4,
0.4 and 0.3.
0.3. Then here you come and start solving. Return of A, so it will be 0.25
5
minus 0.105,
0.105.
not so.
Yes.
Then the other one is 0.8. So 0.15 minus 0.105. Then the other one is negative 0.1 minus 0.105. What are we getting? So 0.25 minus 0.105. So it's
That's 0.15.
0.14145.
145.
Then you square this one, giving us the 0.02125.
0.025.
Right. Okay, so this is what goes on. So this other one give us 0.15 minus 0.105. This is 0.045. Okay. Can you square it? You are getting the 0.0 0.02045. Negative 0.1 minus 0.105. So this is negative 0.205. Square 0.042. So when you're multiplying by probabilities, you get the last numbers there. 0.021025 by 0.3. So this is giving us 0.0063075. So 0.4 by 0.002025 is giving us
So
0.
for the middle one, the 0.04, we don't put the negative, we ignore it.
Which negative?
For 0.3, the one you're from calculating 0.042025, isn't it not supposed to be a negative?
No,
Negative 0.
when you square the number, when you square that number, the negative goes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we try to confirm when you square that by the negative goes. So it's the same as negative 2 square, it will be just 4, not negative 4. Is that clear?
Yes, but my calculator is still giving me a negative, but it's fine, I've got it.
You put that answer in brackets. Put the negative. Negative 2.05 in brackets and square it. So our variance. So you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I've got it, thank you.
It is negative 0.
Sorry, maybe just a quick question on my end as well.
Mm-hmm.
I need assistance with just changing the mode on my calculator. So let's say on the first row there where you got where you had a probability of 0.3, the RA minus ERA was 0.15. You squared it, it gave you the 0.02105. In an event, your calculator is giving you a mode where instead of that final figure of 0.0063, it gives you, let's say, something like 6.3075 times 10 to the power 3, something like that. How can I change the mode to just give me a flat figure like the one we have there?
Okay, that's a very simple thing. You just press on shift.
Okay, shift.
So, madam, so let me answer the question. Can you get me?
Yes, I can.
All right. So you press on shift. You get a calculator and press on shift at a time. Shift at a time, and you press on ENG. On the calculator, there is ENG there. Check for ENG.
ENG.
Check there. There is press on shift.
Okay. So shift and then ENG.
Again, until the power zeroizes, until the power stops giving you the funny thing, until the power zeroizes. And that's when you stop.
Let me just try that once again. I think I saw it change. So say 0.021025. This was the power 2 it gave me.
It has reconciled.
Shift.
It has reconciled.
Am I doing something wrong? Sorry, no, I put the wrong figures. 0.021025. This was multiplied by the probability, which is 0.3. Okay. And you said shift. Then the ENG. I keep pressing it. It keeps giving me more of a whole number, like it's increasing, not going to 0.06. Currently, with my movement, I'm now at this is over 6 million, if I'm not mistaken.
No, just what you do. The first attempt, you go multiply. Which one did you multiply?
0.3. You multiply that by 0.021025.
Equals, press equal sign.
Equal sign.
So be neutral. Just be at ease. So now start doing it. Not at the same time. So press on shift now.
Shift.
And ENG.
ENG.
That's one. That's the first time you have done that. Not so.
Yes.
Again, press on. Go back. Press on shift and ENG, and then to stop it.
Okay. Perfect. All right. No, it's now I've understood. I wasn't going back to the shift button. I just kept pressing ENG. That's noted. Thank you.
So yes.
So you're saying we press shift ENG and we press it again, so we press it 2 times?
Yes, then it will become normal, to normalize.
Do we press it while the figure is on the screen or when it's blank?
You do it when the figure is still there. Okay, that's the figure that you want to normalize.
Okay, thank you.
So then here we are now finding what? We are now finding the variance. So variance is just the addition of these ones. Okay, so addition of this one, this one, this one, you get the variance. Okay, from that variance, the square root of the variance is the standard deviation. So variance is this one, 0.019725. The standard deviation is giving us 0.14. It's a measure of risk. Okay, so this is how you get the standard deviation. Then the coefficient of variation. Coefficient of variation is equal to ACD, standard deviation, you divide by expected return, then multiplied by 100%. So our standard deviation is what? 0.14044. 0.14044 divided by our expected return, which was 0.105. 0.105 times 100%. Zero point 14044 divided by 0.105 times 100 is giving us 133%. So our CV considers risk and return. So this one considers what? The ACD is the risk. So the risk here and the return. So this is the on our coefficient of variation. So they are the CV, they are the risk of stock. Higher CV means higher risk of stock. Means higher risk. Okay, so this is what goes on. So is that clear? Hello, is that clear? All right, then I'm sure people have already understood. Okay, so this is how the question is supposed to be done for what risk is all about, taking into account the state of the economy and everything else that we're supposed to do. All right.